too much of quality issues are coming from the customer. So they take people, let's say one from HR, one from advertising, one from marketing, two people from quality group, one person from the operations, one guy from the packaging department, one dealer representative, and form a small group and give them an authority. Go find out what is the problem and what the company needs to do to fix that quality issue. These are clear command groups where their job may not be really operational or in the day-to-day work, but they exert significant control and authority. You have informal groups. You're familiar with this? Does it need any explanation? Friendship groups. You just like some people and you all, we use the word chemistry very easily to discuss about friendship groups. It just clicks with certain people. One smile and then we have become good friends. Then there are interest groups. Give me an example of interest groups. Let's find somebody who can give us a good example. Thoda niche jaate. Let me start from below. Lovelina, roll number 54. Unmute yourself, Lovelina.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. What is an example of an interest group?
Ma'am, can you please repeat it?
What were you doing before this? Why I should repeat?
Ma'am.
What were you doing? A very nice. There is nothing. I just asked you. Interest group. Give me an example. I haven't even defined it. Did you understand what is a friendship group, Lovelina?
Yes, ma'am.
Very clear? The word friendship and.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So similarly, interest. Socho, think. Those gray cells should be put to use. Otherwise, they will be. Today, a lot of roll number 47. Keyword. Yes. Lovelina, what happened? Interest. People with the same interests form a group. Think of it. Same interest, same hobby, same likings of a particular nature, not the friendship kind of liking.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you think of hobbies that bring people together? People come together because they have the same interest. -2. From your internal marks, I'm minusing marks. This is how I'm giving your internal marks. Okay. Avita Lakra.
Yes, ma'am.
I can't hear you. Can you increase your volume, please?
Yes,
example of an interest group.
Hello, ma'am.
I can't hear you. You need to increase the volume of the gadget. Can you come closer to the instrument that you're speaking from? Is it a mobile phone?
Yes, ma'am.
You're attending this class from a mobile phone. Haven't you been given guidelines?
Ma'am, I'm speaking.
Yeah, now I can hear you. Give me an example of an interest group. People.
Ma'am, we can take an example of.
Tell me.
Ma'am, we can take an example of sports. Like if anybody likes sports, then they can.
So I like badminton. Chirag likes, what should I say? Afsana likes cricket. What is the name? Pratik Modi likes football. Are we an interest group? Make it little more narrow. Can you narrow it? Usually people, just because I like sports, will not be part of a group. I like
if somebody like basketball, then
correct. So all people who share a certain, I like painting. I may find that interact more with people who have a creative bent of mind. These are examples of interest groups. Any confusion? So I'm going to give Lavina one more chance, Lavina, before I mark you -2 out of 10 for class participation and listening to what's happening in the class. I give you a chance to name other one interest group other than sports group and creative arts. Thank you.
Ma'am, like cultural activities, ma'am, like in dance or singing group.
Good. So groups share certain task functions. In an organization's context, the focus is on the achievement of organizational goals. So groups are challenged. Groups exist because often the work that needs to be done may not be done effectively alone. They are complex tasks. You may need many kinds of skill. Yes, as a software developer designing an application, I may only need to know a particular language. Yes, Chaitya?
Ma'am, Aman Vaibhav is in the waiting room.
Aman Vaibhav, where is Aman? And Abhishek Chandra, I have no clue what he's doing in the waiting room, permanently in the waiting room. This has become like the restroom in the physical class. Okay, handling complex tasks. So organizations are challenged that jobs are not so simple कि मेरे को अच्छा से C++ आता है, or that I know how to do great marketing, I know all about the product, I have good marketing skills. No, it may not be sufficient. The job of a marketing executive or a marketing manager may be complex. It requires maybe communication skills. It requires knowledge not just about my product of the competitor. It requires the ability to convince the customer. I may be great in communication, but convincing a customer is a different skill. So tasks are complex. Just one good strength or a few good strengths are not enough. A single person may not have all the capabilities that are required to execute the job, which is why groups are important in organization. What is one person's strength? Another person may not be very good, but he will have another strength. Okay? Collecting, so I make a sale. Often organizations, even large organizations like IBM, Microsoft are running. How do you get people who committed, who gave you an order? They said, ye lo paisa, ye lo order, and here is the 20% advance for purchase of, let us say, 50 computers. After that, they don't make the payment. So collection is another capability that a person must have. How do you follow up with the customer? How do you convince the customer to make the payments? How do you design your contract such that people cannot play around? You're losing money, you're losing time. So the point I'm making is jobs are complex. So a group of people with diverse skill help you do the job more effectively. There's a lot of liaison and coordinating functions that groups do. Between groups, between HR and finance in an organization, between marketing and operations in an organization, between advertising and the PR group in an organization. There's a lot of coordination work that needs to be done. And just one person will not be able to do it. So there's a lot of coordination between teams where different people can take responsibility for different things and can help the team work effectively. Making complex decisions. Single human beings are, researchers again and again proved that 1 + 1 can be 11 and not needing be just 2. So making complex decisions, more minds make you think better. Groups help people to come up with creative ideas. Lavina blanked out when we asked her for an example. But when the group began giving suggestions, it was easy for Lavlina to quickly say a group of dancers. So often, there is a trigger that people need to start thinking or to think differently. Groups are useful for that. They become as an effective vehicle for training new employees. Because, so if you look at the first point, different skills, different members in the group have. So when a new employee joins, each person can take turns teaching that person different capabilities. So a person who came with knowing very little can very quickly know a lot. Just because different people shared different kinds of information. These are some functions of groups. Any questions on this? Groups also fulfill certain maintenance functions. Secondary. If you see, this slide was looking at the core functions of group, the task. Why are you here? Why does a group exist? In addition to that, groups have secondary roles, not very obvious, but important. They fulfill the need for social interaction, very important. Research has again and again proven that people working together make not just the work efficient, it also makes people feel good about their jobs. So a lot of people like to work with people who are similar minded. People like to be able to share, to teach others, to learn from others. So there is a need for social interaction. Having a friend at the workplace is an important measure of how engaged you are. People are worried if you are a loner and roaming around alone in the office, you will find the manager, you will find HR, all these people becoming concerned for that employee. What's wrong with him? Why is he not interacting? Why he doesn't have friends? Think of your school days, right? You would always remember people who were alone and wonder, is something wrong? Why is he alone? Why is he so silent? It bothers us. So there is a maintenance function that groups play. They fulfill that, inherent human need for contact, social contact. It provides a sense of identity. I belong to a good team, a good group. Okay, we won that cricket match. We got that award for that dance. Are all a sense of identity and self-esteem. You feel good in a group. You know where you stand as far as your capabilities go. Imagine if I just put you in a room and said, do this work. You will find that 3 people put in a room doing the same job and 1 person doing the same job in another room. You will find that naturally the productivity of the 3 people in the room is far higher individually. I'm not saying that, they're working together. There is a concept of self-esteem that, yes, I'm doing a good job. My daughter, I was telling you, right? Sometime back, she joined this company called Razorpay. During the early days of her work, she was only benchmarking herself against the team she had joined with. There were about 8 people across India who were part of the data analytics team. So initially they put you in the operations department. So every day the focus was, oh mom, today, I did 40 tickets and that guy, he did 8. And this girl, she hardly did 3. But there is this guy, he's doing 50 tickets per day. So that self-esteem, where am I versus the others? That sense of identity. I am good. Solve personal problems. You will find people confiding in each other. As I said, as human beings, we need each other. So with friends, we can open up. We can say, hey, this manager is really tough, right? He's very unsympathetic. I asked him for a leave and he did not He said, can't give the leave. Does he behave like that with you? Then I feel different. If he doesn't behave that way with you, then I feel different. So it helps you solve personal issues. You can talk to people, form personal relationships, find good friends, and tide through the challenges at the workplace. Reduce anxiety and uncertainty. We will move on to discuss quickly some of the models that are there that drive group behavior, that help us understand group behavior. The most popular model here is the Tuckman's model of group development, that every group goes through 5 stages. When you joined this course, there was a forming, okay? You were not really very together as a group. Some of you were even asking the question, did I do the right thing? Xavier's, is it a good institution? BCom, is it the right choice? There's a lot of adherence. You were looking up to the university. Emails coming from the university, you were reading it carefully. You were trying to understand. You were more the listening mode, which is the forming mode of a group. Then comes the storming. Now you begin to get to roughly know each other a little better. There is conflict. There are people in the team trying to, some amount of assertiveness, some amount of aggression, some amount of showing off, talking too much, opposing. All these actives, they are called as storming. The group is trying to find, each member in the group is trying to find their place in their group, their identity in the group. Then comes the norming, where we look at clear roles and responsibilities that are facilitated. Performing becomes the clear vision. Now, norms are what? You start to lay down clear rules. Within a few weeks, a class rep is identified. After that, you elect that class rep, and then nobody can really, people do not waste time trying to, again argue over it. Some amount of consensus takes place within the group. Roles and responsibilities become clear. The role of the class rep, what they will do or not do, what will the rest of the classes behave, what people are opinion leaders, all that begins to, there's some amount of structuring, norms are being set. And then the group begins to perform. Now you have clarity. Okay, these kind of issues, I can approach the faculty directly. These issues better to go through the class rep. These issues we will take up in the class. So the group begins to perform as a group wanting to learn, wanting to get good marks in the courses, wanting to be perceived as a good batch. You begin to perform. Finally, towards the end of the course, there is an adjoining, where the task has come to an end. There is a good feeling about how I performed versus others, how others have performed better and how they deserve to get what they did. So there is a lot of clarity, which is part of the adjoining. The Tuckman's model of group development is one of the most popular models of teams. Any questions on this? So if you look at a work team, when a project comes into a company like a Wipro or a consulting company like Deloitte, they pull together people who are working in other projects, whose projects are also coming to an end, and put them in this new project for the new customer, forming. Then there is storming. Now they have come from different teams. A kind of power structure is being established. So people find their own identity within the team. There is power struggles. Why is he made the project leader? Why is he the project manager? All these factors begin to play a role. Storming initially. Then comes the norming. Now the group has got, this is the project requirements. This is what the customer wants. These are the dates by which these projects have to be, deadlines have to be met. And this is what each member in the team will do normally. Then comes, now that there is clarity, this is the project manager, this is the product team leader, these are the other roles that each of us will play, this is what I'm supposed to do. There is a clear vision, mission, purpose, goal, all of that. And each one is accountable for it, performing. When the project is coming to an end, there is a sense of achievement. Okay, we met the requirements of the customer. We did it on time. No, we exceeded. We took 2 months more than what was anticipated, but it was a good job at joining. Okay, so it's very common for teams to go through this. There are a couple of other models which are a lot simpler. Frankly, the Tuckman's model is the most important model. Woodcock's model looks at group development. It takes more a developmental approach. That when a group is initially formed, there is a way in which it progresses. To begin with is the undeveloped team. Sorry, wait. The stages are what you see there. A stage, a lack of clarity. When you're looking at a group being formed for the first time, how will this course go? What will this project be? How good is this customer? How tough is this customer? How easy or challenging is this project? How easy or challenging is this course? All these, there is a lack of clarity to begin with, which is called the underdeveloped team. At this stage, the team is underdeveloped. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of confusion. Now, the team begins to make sense. This project team that was put for the new project begins to, they try to, okay, I have done a similar project like that. Okay, how long did it take? It took about 9 months. So you begin to experiment. People bring in ideas. This is the best way to do it. People are talking, which is called the experimentation. You're talking about ideas. You're looking at people in the team, what capabilities they have, how are they contributing to the team's discussion. And in if you remember your own class experience earlier in the course, there was a lot of experimentation. There were some people who were talking a lot, but talking nonsense. There were some people who were talking less, but making very good points. Experimentation phase. The team is in experimenting mode. It's not very clear. It doesn't know who are the nature of the members in the class. The third stage is when you begin to establish roles. So if you look at that project team example, which I said, now the team says, okay, this is the project manager, this is the project leaders, maybe 2 or 3 leaders within the project. And within each leader, there are few members. You begin to establish rules. This is what each one will do. This is what each sub-team will do. These are the timelines. These are the activities that need to be completed. So a clear establishment of rules, which is called the consolidating team. At this stage, the team becomes consolidating. It is finally working towards that common objective. In the first 2 stages of the team, it was first totally clueless. Kya hone wala hai? Then came all that storming, norming kind of phase where there was a lot of back and forth. Now the team is in a consolidated stage because it is called a consolidating team because it has clearly established what it will do, by when it will do it, who will do what. The team now moves into the stage of development. There is a lot of clarity. Things have been established, who will do what, when, by what time, how, and they begin to execute the task. This is a maturity. It is now fully aligned with what is the objective of the program. Any questions? Let us look at the punctuated equilibrium model. The third model we'll talk about is somewhat similar to Tuckman's model, and also actually borrows some points from the Woodcock's model. This differentiates, unlike the earlier, the first model was 5-stage, second model was 4-stage. This talks about just 2 phases of activities, which consists of 3 stages. So there is a stage of activity. Teams quickly come in, okay? They spend a lot of time, first getting to know each other, first understanding who's good at what, first accepting their manager, the team leaders, people in authority, understanding the work. So according to the punctuated equilibrium model, there is an initial phase of, settling things up, activity around what needs to be done, which is followed by a transition stage. Now that you can see phase 1 tends to be a stable line of lot of searching, thinking, understanding, knowing about that project. Then comes a quick period of intensive transition. You can see there. Okay. And this transition, where you establish clarity on what has to be done. Again, the same thing, by what time it needs to be done and who will do it. So there is a rapid phase of transition, which is indicated by the zigzag lines there. And then comes the third stage, which is called phase 2, where there is a lot of activity. What is unique about this model, it says that no matter how planned we are, that phase 2 has got one small part of activity which before completion, where the energy of the team steps up, where there is a jump, because you have to now finish the job. Time is very close at hand. Everybody is putting in extra effort, and it is that last part of the job which is important, which is why in phase 2, you can see that there is that straight line and then it takes a kind of a S shape. So there is going to be that small jump in the activity levels in the team to reach the stage of termination, or the job is completed. Any questions on this? So there is an initial stage of inertia. Actually, the sequence in which this has been written has to be changed. I will change it and send the slide to you. It should be an initial stage of inertia, followed by hectic activity, which sets the clarity, followed by a significant stability towards achieving the task, and towards the end, a small jump, which is indicated by this, vertical line, and then another horizontal line to ensure timely completion of the task. Here are a look of what are activities that determine group processes. Group work by norms. There are a set of expectations about how individuals will behave, how the group will behave. Some of these, so the word norm is very different from the word rule. Rules are written down words. They are written down, and actually, if you break them, you are liable to be penalized. Right? Let's say your attendance is a rule, but your participation in the class, there is a norm. If the faculty calls your name and asks you a question, whether you like it or not, you will not keep silent. Can you keep silent? No, right? When I call out the names of people earlier today in the class and asked you to give an example, you were You felt that you had to say something. So there are group norms about how individuals will behave in an organization. If you look at the university, as faculty, the working hours in my letter of appointment says that I must work from 9 to 10. Now, there are norms. There are norms that at, I work, 9 to 5, I'm sorry. So at 5 o'clock, will I just get up and lock my room and leave? May not be the case. A lot of us who are faculty in this university have classes which is from 6:30 to 8. Because most of the visiting faculty want to come and do their classes during the daytime. There are so many electives, so many others. So when we are teaching, especially the postgraduate program, there's no real norms there. The norms of this group is we will adjust based on each other's requirements, and there is no real written down rule or structure. There is a norms about, in organization, there are norms about how you dress up. What kind of clothes you will wear. There will not be written down policies about it. There are norms. In groups, there are rules. There are clear roles that individuals in the group will play. What work you will do is the task role. What kind of relationships you will maintain is the maintenance role. The kind of friends you have. Whom are you friendly with? You are stuck with a problem at work. Who will you go to? Is a maintenance role. You had a fight with somebody. You met with an accident on the road. Whom are you talking about it with? And then there are personal roles. The role of the way you dress, the language that you will use, how you will behave with others in the team. So as a group member, there are clear roles for you. As a group, cohesiveness. If you are in a group, you are obliged to behave in a particular fashion. So I think we asked Ritik something and he said, okay, I behave like this or I will do that. But when he's part of the class as a member of the BCom program, second semester of Xavier University, Bhubaneswar, there is a way in which he's expected to behave. When I put you in a task group and, in your breakout rooms, I visit your rooms and try to understand to what extent are these groups cohesive. I ask you questions. Why is everybody on mute? What is happening to the others? There is an expectation that the group works together. Sources of cohesiveness is what you see in this slide here. All of you are here paying a little more than what you would pay in a normal institution for a BCom program, right? You made a choice that you will join, or your parents decided, you and your parents together decided and said, no, let me go to Xavier University. Okay? So there is an attitude that brand matters, that quality education makes a difference. You want to have that Xavier brand on your resume. It's a lifelong investment. Good quality faculty. The institution is among the best in the state. XIMB is among the best in the country, best brand in the country. All this is influencing your decision. So there are reasons that bring you together as a group. Cohesiveness is how much of commonality binds you together. So if I go back to my example of a project team, we are looking at to what extent that team comes together. The kind of, what is the work they do? Which customer are they working for? Why are they there? What is the leader doing? What kind of rewards are they looking for? Everyone in a project team at the workplace is looking for achievement. Hey, we should be considered a good team, that we did a great job. Customers should be very happy with me. There are sources that bring the group together. Okay, so with this, we will stop today's. Let me share the attendance sheet. Please start calling out your roll numbers.
Roll number